people react the way that they do.
Why do you think he likes young people so
It's because it's the same reason why he liked me, was the fact that I didn't care who he was. That was the thing. I talked to him like he was a normal human being. And that's what, and kids do that to him because he's not, I mean, he's Michael Jackson, the pop singer, but he's not the god of, the king of pop or anything like that. He's just, a guy who's actually very kid-like himself and wants to go out there and wants to play video games with each.
Your parents like encourage it?
They weren't against it. It wasn't like they encouraged it or like pushing me upon it. It was just kind of like I wanted to hang out with him and they were fine with it.
So what do you make of what he's going through now?
Like, like I said, it's unfortunate. And, it's a circus right now.
You think it's a bad rap?
I think so, yeah. I mean, that's, listen, like, look what happened the first time this happened to him. If someone had done something like that to my kid, I wouldn't just settle for some money. I'd make sure the guy was in jail.
The Michael Jackson movie just smashed records everywhere. It opened at #1 in 64 countries and pulled off the biggest opening ever for a music biopic. People were already shocked by the numbers, but then things got even crazier. Right as the movie started taking over headlines, the director of Leaving Neverland jumped into interviews and compared Michael Jackson to Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, that was the comparison he chose to make. And once you see everything in this story, a lot of people think those comments aged badly. There's also one person who has pushed back against these claims for more than 30 years, and that's Macaulay Culkin. His name keeps coming up for a reason. In this video, you're going to learn who Dan Reed really is, what Leaving Neverland was actually about, and why he suddenly started doing non-stop interviews again in 2026.
As you may already know, after my tour ended, I remain out of the country undergoing treatment for a dependency on pain medication. This medication was initially prescribed to see the excruciating pain that I was suffering after recent reconstructive surgery on.
You'll also see the full timeline of Macaulay Culkin defending Michael Jackson in interviews, on camera, and even while under oath, dating all the way back to 1993. And that's not even the wildest part. You're also going to hear about the FBI investigation that lasted nearly a decade. We're talking about 16 hard drives, hundreds of agents, surveillance, raids, interviews, and years of digging through evidence. After all of that, investigators reached conclusions that still get debated heavily today. Then there's Jordan Chandler, the original 1993 accuser. Years later, when the FBI contacted him and asked if he would testify during Michael Jackson's 2005 criminal trial, his response caught a lot of people off guard. That detail rarely gets discussed, but it became a major talking point for Jackson supporters. So before jumping deeper into all of this, here's the background you need first, because the timeline matters. Back in 1993, a 13-year-old boy named Jordan Chandler accused Michael Jackson of inappropriate conduct. Jackson strongly denied the allegations from the start. The case ended in a civil settlement, meaning money was paid, but there was no admission of guilt and no criminal conviction connected to the case. Then in 2003, another wave of allegations exploded after a television documentary brought fresh attention to Jackson's private life. The situation quickly turned into a criminal case. Michael Jackson was arrested and later faced 14 criminal counts in court. The 2005 trial became one of the biggest celebrity court cases ever, with the jury spending 32 hours over 7 days deciding the outcome. Before the jury even started real deliberations, the outcome was already leaning heavily in one direction. On the very first vote, 9 out of the 12 jurors reportedly voted to acquit Michael Jackson immediately. Then on June 13th, 2005, the verdict finally came in. Michael Jackson was found not guilty on all 14 counts. But the story didn't end there, not even close. Fast forward 14 years later to 2019, when director Dan Reed released Leaving Neverland on HBO. The documentary was 4 hours long and focused completely on the stories of two men, Wade Robson and James Safechuck. Both claim Michael Jackson abused them when they were children. The film exploded across social media and news outlets almost overnight. It won a BAFTA, dominated headlines, and completely shifted public opinion for a huge number of people. But critics of the documentary pointed out something important that still gets debated today. Dan Reed built the entire project around only one side of the story. The film did not include interviews with investigators from the 1993 allegations, detectives connected to the 2005 criminal trial, or people who challenged the claims being made. There was also no cross-examination featured inside the documentary itself. Later on, Reed acknowledged in interviews that he chose not to include material that could have contradicted parts of the accusations.
I just watched a lot of things about him. I think, somebody once reflected and said, what Michael went through as a child, he had to grow up so fast that he related to what you went through as a child. And I think in a way he was trying to protect you.
Yeah.
I mean, and I got something that was kind of profound. Did you feel that?
Yeah, he reached out to me because a lot of things were happening, big and fast with me. And I think he identified with that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost easy to try to say, oh, it was like weird or whatever, but it wasn't, because it made sense. Like we were legitimate. Like, here's the thing: at the end of the day, we were friends in the most simple.
And he was a child
kind of,
in many ways too. He didn't.
but also like we were just like. It's like one of my friendships that people question only because of the fact that he was the most famous person in the world. Like, like I'm friends, we're friendly, you know what I mean? And the more people wouldn't question that because we're friends.
Because we're in the same age.
You don't have to explain that also. You don't have to explain your friendships to people. Like, I mean, seriously, how many friendships have you had to really explain to people?
Not many.
That decision sparked major backlash from people who felt the documentary presented a one-sided narrative instead of a full investigation. And this is where Wade Robson and James Safechuck become a huge part of the conversation, because their timelines are constantly examined by both supporters and critics. Back in 1993, Wade Robson was just 10 years old when Michael Jackson first came under investigation. Police interviewed him directly at the time, and according to reports, he said nothing inappropriate had happened. His family publicly defended Jackson so strongly that they even held a press conference supporting him. Then years later, during the massive 2005 criminal trial, Wade Robson became Michael Jackson's first defense witness. He testified under oath in court and stated that he had slept in Jackson's bedroom more than 20 times, but said he was never touched inappropriately. That testimony later became one of the most heavily discussed parts of the entire case. Back in 1993, James Safechuck also reportedly told investigators that nothing inappropriate had happened. That matched the same position Wade Robson gave at the time. Then years later, everything changed. In May 2013, 4 years after Michael Jackson passed away and could no longer respond personally to accusations, Wade Robson filed a lawsuit claiming Jackson had abused him for years, starting when he was 7 years old. Then in 2014, James Safechuck filed his own lawsuit with similar allegations. And this is where the controversy around Leaving Neverland became even bigger. Critics of the documentary kept pointing to one major issue they felt Dan Reed never fully explored during the 4-hour film. Robson and Safechuck had both previously defended Michael Jackson publicly, and in Robson's case, under oath during the 2005 criminal trial. Because of that, people on both sides of the debate started asking the same question over and over. If the earlier testimony was true, then the later claims would not match it. And if the later claims were true, then the earlier testimony would have been false.
Someone who had strong views about that mythology is the director Dan Reed of Leaving Neverland, which Variety went to for comment. It's a long interview. It's worth reading as a counterpoint, but I will simply share this comment because we obviously know what Leaving Neverland focused on. Variety asked, quote, "How do you feel about the ways the Jacksons have shielded his legacy by producing musicals and films that sidestep his response? Why are they dancing around this?" Which is undisputed, ... And neither the estate nor the writer of the film nor anyone else has provided any alternative narrative apart from, oh, he didn't have a childhood, so he needed to spend the night alone with kids, which makes no sense, end quote.
That contradiction became one of the most argued over parts of the entire situation. Then there's Macaulay Culkin, a name that always gets pulled into this conversation. Culkin wasn't just another celebrity around Michael Jackson. He was one of the biggest child stars on the planet. Home Alone made him the face of an entire generation in the 1990s, and despite decades of headlines, investigations, documentaries, and non-stop media attention, he has consistently kept the same public position about Jackson for over 30 years. During the 2005 criminal trial, Culkin reportedly went against the advice of people around him and chose to testify anyway. According to reports, his managers and agents wanted him far away from the case because of how explosive the media coverage had become. But he still appeared in court and testified under oath that Michael Jackson never behaved inappropriately toward him. Culkin also reportedly described the accusations against Jackson as absolutely ridiculous. After the trial, defense attorney Thomas Messerow praised both Macaulay Culkin and comedian Chris Tucker for supporting Jackson publicly during such a chaotic moment. Messerow later said, "Chris Tucker and Macaulay Culkin will always go down in my book as loyal, good friends." He also claimed both men faced pressure from representatives who did not want them involved but chose to testify anyway because they believed Jackson needed their support. Before the trial even started, Culkin also defended Jackson during a televised interview with Larry King, and that interview still gets shared online constantly. When Larry King asked about spending time at Neverland Ranch, Culkin explained it in a way he felt people misunderstood. He said, "We played video games, and he had an amusement park." Then he addressed the bedroom topic directly, saying, "They go, oh, they slept in the same bedroom as him." Culkin continued by explaining, "I don't think they understand that Michael Jackson's bedroom is 2 stories and has 3 bathrooms. So, yeah, I slept in his bedroom, but you have to understand the whole scenario of that." Macaulay Culkin also shared why he believed Michael Jackson connected so naturally with younger people. According to Culkin, They didn't care who he was. I talked to him like a normal human being. He's just a guy who is very kid-like himself. He wants to play video games. That explanation became a major part of the debate because Culkin described Jackson as someone who enjoyed escaping fame and acting like a regular person around kids his friends and family trusted. Culkin also spoke openly about the 1993 Jordan Chandler civil settlement. He said, "If somebody had done something like that to my kid, I wouldn't just settle for some money. I would make sure the guy was in jail." Then he added, "It just really goes to show they got the money and they ran." By 2020, Michael Jackson had already been gone for more than 10 years, yet Culkin still had not changed his story once. No active trial, no legal pressure, no obvious reason to keep defending him, and still the message stayed exactly the same.
You thought you knew everything there was to know about the often bizarre life of Michael Jackson. More information is revealed. The FBI has released more than 300 pages of formerly classified documents relating to the late King of Pop, including details regarding his cases. It's also come out a man allegedly obsessed with Jacko's sister Janet threatened to kill the star and thousands of his fans if he wasn't given half of the singer's fortune. In one letter dated in July 1992, the man states he will personally for the details to be released under the US Freedom of Information Act. There is nothing in the pages which provides any new information on Jacko's sudden death.
Here's a detail that almost never gets mentioned when people debate all of this. Macaulay Culkin is the godfather to all three of Michael Jackson's children, Paris, Prince, and Biggie. For a lot of Jackson supporters, that relationship says a lot because families usually do not give someone that kind of role unless there's a deep level of trust involved. That connection is still visible years later too. Paris Jackson even showed up at Culkin's Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony in early 2024, and fans quickly noticed there was an MJ musical poster sitting in the background behind them. People online immediately started talking about it. The loyalty clearly went both ways, and according to many fans, it carried over into the next generation as well. Then came the release of the Michael Jackson biopic in 2026, and the timing turned everything into chaos again. The film officially dropped on April 24th, 2026, directed by Antoine Fuqua and starring Jafar Jackson, Michael's real-life nephew, in the lead role. The movie exploded internationally right away, opening at #1 in 64 out of 82 global markets during its first weekend. It also reportedly broke records for a music biopic, opening in 63 countries. Most people expected the conversation to focus on the movie itself, but instead, director Dan Reed jumped right back into the headlines with a new round of interviews. In a Hollywood Reporter interview published the exact same day the film premiered, Reed made an extremely controversial comparison. He said, "This guy was worse than Jeffrey Epstein. People don't care that he was a child molester. Literally, people just don't care." Then during an interview with Global News Canada, Reed reportedly said, "Short of having actual video evidence of Michael Jackson engaged, I don't know what would be sufficient for people." He also compared the Michael Jackson biopic to making a promotional movie about Harvey Weinstein and questioned why Hollywood figures were willing to support a project centered around Jackson. Those comments instantly sparked massive reactions online and pushed the controversy right back into the spotlight. Dan Reed didn't stop with just one interview either. On April the 27th, during a Variety interview, he went even harder at the Michael Jackson biopic. After watching the film, Reed described Jackson as, in his own words, a waxwork who performs jukebox songs with zero insight into what makes Jackson tick. Then he added another line that instantly blew up online, calling Jackson an asexual plastic action doll. The comments triggered huge reactions from both supporters and critics of the film. Reed also accused director Antoine Fuqua of making the movie mainly for money, which a lot of people found ironic considering Reed's own public profile has stayed heavily connected to Leaving Neverland and the Michael Jackson controversy for years. But one of Reed's biggest accusations was that the filmmakers intentionally avoided the abuse allegations altogether. According to reports from people involved with production, the real story behind that situation was far more complicated. The original screenplay for the biopic, written by three-time Oscar nominee John Logan, reportedly did include the 1993 Jordan Chandler allegations. In fact, that storyline was said to be a major part of the movie's third act. Director Antoine Fuqua even confirmed to The New Yorker that the film originally opened with the 1993 police raid on Neverland Ranch. So the allegations were not ignored in the early version of the project. They were actually written into the script and filmed. Then everything reportedly changed because of a legal issue hidden inside the 1994 civil settlement connected to the Chandler family. Lawyers for the Jackson estate, who were also involved as producers, allegedly discovered a clause that prevented Jordan Chandler from being portrayed or directly referenced in films connected to Michael Jackson.
Guys, you're not going to believe this. Yes, Jordan Chandler, the son, was literally drugged by his father, dentist Dr. Evan Chandler, into a confession. This is from an article at that time. It reads, on August 2nd, 1993, dentist Dr. Evan Chandler was extracting a tooth from his own son, Jordan, when he did something unusual. Under the supervision of an attending anesthesiologist, Dr. Chandler injected his son with a dose of sodium amytal, a barbiturate. Although in popular culture, it has sometimes incorrectly been called a truth serum, it is not normal to use sodium amytal to pull a tooth. In fact, it is a psychological drug with sedative and hypnotic effects, end quote. Dr. Evan Chandler, after compelling this confession from his son, literally drugging him, it's giving Harley Pasternak vibes, then demanded $20 million privately from Michael Jackson to not make it public. He also took his son to a psychiatrist and made his son describe graphic details of what Jackson had done to him, but not to any of the other boys who were present as well.
According to reports, the production team had missed the clause earlier in development, creating a major legal problem right in the middle of filming. That mistake reportedly forced the studio into 22 days of emergency reshoots. Production had to move from Santa Barbara to Los Angeles, and the changes were so expensive that the filmmakers reportedly lost a major state tax rebate in the process. The situation turned into a behind-the-scenes mess almost nobody saw coming. The last-minute reshoots reportedly turned into a massive financial headache for the Michael Jackson biopic. Reports claim the extra filming added somewhere between $10 million and $15 million onto a budget that was already sitting around $155 million. On top of that, the movie got delayed an entire year, moving from its original April 2025 release date to April 2026. And according to Lionsgate, this may not even be the full story yet. The studio has reportedly described the film as essentially a part 1, which means a sequel could still happen later and potentially focus more directly on the years surrounding the allegations and court battles. So despite online claims, supporters of the project argue the topic was not erased completely. It just was not included in this specific version of the movie. Then the conversation shifts back to Dan Reed and why he keeps doing interviews non-stop in 2026. Critics of Reed argue that he is not acting like a traditional journalist reporting from a neutral position. Instead, they see him as a filmmaker deeply connected to an ongoing legal fight involving Wade Robson and James Safechuck. Right now, Robson and Safechuck are suing MJJ Productions and MJJ Ventures, companies formerly connected to Michael Jackson, in a civil case reportedly seeking $400 million in damages. The trial is currently scheduled for November 2026, and according to reports, the Jackson estate has rejected settlement offers connected to the case. Reed has also stayed heavily involved in covering the situation publicly. In 2025, he released Leaving Neverland 2 on YouTube, which focused on Robson and Safechuck, preparing for the upcoming legal battle. Reports also say he is working on a third documentary centered around the trial itself. Because of that, some critics believe Reed's media appearances are about more than just discussing the past. They argue his interviews, public comments, and criticism of the biopic are also influencing broader public opinion ahead of the 2026 trial. That includes the explosive comparisons, the magazine interviews, and the harsh comments arriving right as the movie broke records internationally. According to people who see it this way, the real audience may not just be movie fans watching online. It could also be the larger public conversation surrounding the future court case in Los Angeles. Then there's another part of this story that supporters of Jackson constantly bring up: the FBI investigation. Federal authorities reportedly began looking into Michael Jackson in the early 1990s, following allegations involving young boys. Investigations connected to those accusations stretched across multiple years and involved extensive law enforcement resources. During the 2003 Neverland Ranch raids, authorities reportedly seized 16 hard drives and sent them for forensic analysis. Supporters of Jackson frequently point to the length and scale of those investigations, arguing that federal agencies spent years examining evidence connected to the allegations. According to supporters of Michael Jackson, the years-long federal investigation never produced evidence that proved criminal wrongdoing. Reports connected to the investigation stated that forensic examinations of the seized hard drives did not uncover illegal material tied to the allegations being investigated. Supporters constantly point to that outcome when arguing Jackson was heavily scrutinized for years without charges resulting from the federal inquiry. The FBI later released hundreds of pages of files connected to the case. By December 2009, more than 333 pages had become public, with over 600 pages eventually released across multiple sections. People who defend Jackson often highlight another detail from those records. Many of the documents reportedly focused on extortion claims, threats, and attempts to obtain money connected to Jackson, rather than evidence of criminal conduct. Then there's Jordan Chandler, the original 1993 accuser, and this part still gets discussed constantly online. According to released records and reports surrounding the case, 2 FBI agents contacted Chandler in 2004 while prosecutors were preparing for Michael Jackson's 2005 criminal trial. Investigators reportedly wanted Chandler to testify in court to strengthen the prosecution's case. Agents allegedly met with him directly and explained what they were asking for. But according to those reports, Chandler refused to testify against Jackson. He also reportedly said he would fight any legal effort to force him into court. Then on December 9th, 2004, that line of investigation was officially closed, with records reportedly stating there were no outstanding leads or evidence items remaining. For many Jackson supporters, that became one of the biggest unanswered questions in the entire story. They argue that if the original accuser from 1993 chose not to participate during the 2005 criminal trial, despite investigators reaching out directly, it raises major questions about how people interpret the earlier allegations. By June 13, 2005, Michael Jackson was acquitted on all counts after one of the most heavily watched celebrity trials ever. Years later, Dan Reed publicly compared Jackson to Jeffrey Epstein, while Jackson supporters continued pointing back to the FBI investigation, the trial outcome, and public defenders like Macaulay Culkin, who has consistently repeated the same message about Jackson since the 1990s. The FBI files, the court verdict, and Macaulay Culkin's public statements have all been part of this debate for decades. Supporters of Jackson argue that Culkin spent over 30 years giving the exact same account publicly, privately, and under oath, while critics continue pointing to documentaries like Leaving Neverland and the accusations made against Jackson over the years. That divide is exactly why this conversation still explodes online every single time Michael Jackson's name trends again. Then another controversy hit in late 2025. In December 2025, the Department of Justice released more than 300,000 pages connected to Jeffrey Epstein files. Buried inside those records was a photo showing Michael Jackson standing next to Epstein at Epstein's Palm Beach property. The image spread across social media instantly, and critics used it to push even more comparisons between the two men. But soon after, Michael Jackson's former bodyguard, Matt Fiddes, publicly responded with a statement titled, "The Truth About This Epstein-Michael Jackson Photo." According to Fiddes, he was there when the photo was taken and claimed the situation had nothing to do with any friendship between Jackson and Epstein. Fiddes explained that Michael had been considering moving to Palm Beach to be closer to Barry Gibb from the Bee Gees while they were working on music together. As part of that process, Jackson's team reportedly arranged tours of several luxury homes in the area. One of the properties available at the time allegedly belonged to Epstein, which is how the photo was taken. Now the debate is bigger than ever, especially after the 2026 biopic exploded worldwide. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think the Michael Jackson biopic made the right move by leaving the allegations out because of the legal issues? Or do you think the filmmakers should have found a way to include that part of the story anyway? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it, because more deep dives are coming soon. See you in the next one.